Welcome, everyone. I'm Yannick Augustin, Senior User Experience Engineer at InfoSim, and I'm happy to show you our new way of working with the analyzer views and the report wizard with StableNet 26. So I want to show you how to perform like simple tasks with our analyzer views, how to create a report shop, and also provide some like quality of life improvements that we're working on. So first of all, let's start with a general look at our new user interface. As you can see, we have restructured it a little. So on the left, we have our tag tree. Then we have a configuration panel to the right. It works like a form. So we use progressive disclosure. We hide elements that are irrelevant for your current settings. And then on the right, you would have the charts and tables to work with. To make it convenient and make use of muscle memory and so on, we streamlined the interface with all of the other analyzer views as well. So here's the analyzer. You have a look at the new group analyzer, category analyzer, and the status matrix. So we get the idea. And we use the same improved interface also for our report components, which we'll see in a few minutes. Let's dive into the analyzer and with a real life example. So you got a complaint that video call experience is just bad. And the colleague who mentioned that, you know that he is working with a router you suspect already. So for this use case, you could use the analyzer. We search for this router. It's called Dallas. You see that it's already selected, and we can create the chart for this measurement. With the new interface, you don't have to work with the tag tree. So on small screens, you can also hide the tag tree and just work with our new add button here and just work with dialogues instead. Now we want to have a look at the ping chart and also jitter, because this is relevant for analyzing like video call experience. You can see that we have the jitter chart here now plotted, and the time range is 24 hours. You can also change other pre-selection options like 1 hour, 7 days, 30 days, and so on. And all of these new options and at the current point of time. So all the latest measurement data is included here. If you have special needs, you can also use our custom settings here for time interval settings, and also date ranges are possible. Well, if you want to have a look at some peaks in the chart, you can zoom into the graphs here, not via just clicking or adjusting the time ranges. You can also make use of some mouse gestures. So just take the cursor to the area you want to zoom in. Then click the left mouse button and select the area you want to zoom into. You can see now we have the axis now well arranged to the settings. And if you can inspect the peaks here, you can hover on the ranges and see the data. If you want to go back, you can do just the same gesture in a reverted way, or you can also use this new button here for reset the zoom or the position. Where we have not just normal chart types, you can also make use of other chart types like the average, for instance. And we also allow more chart options. So if you don't like the zoom of the y-axis, you can set the custom y-axis, for instance, so up to 50 milliseconds in this example. SLA markers are kind of useful if you want to highlight some ranges. And you want like a way to interpret the values. So we just created an SLA marker. We say that, well, jitter above 50 milliseconds isn't good or critical. So we have a sub value of 50 and make it up to, let's say, 1000. Red is right because it's critical, but we want to reduce the opacity because you can't see all the ranges now. So reduce the opacity of this SLA marker, put it to the background. And now we are done. We have a functioning SLA marker. If you want to get rid of it, you can just toggle the visibility here So we don't have to remove it if you don't want to see it for a certain point of time. Okay. Now maybe you're also interested not just in jitter, but also in packet loss. And you want to compare it with the jitter chart to see if there is some correlation. So for that, because it's about the same device measurement, we just clone this measurement with this button here, and then select as a visualization type the packet loss chart. You can see that it's kind of difficult to interpret which graph belongs to, let's say, the packet loss and which to the jitter graph. So for this use case, we also allow multi-measurement chart modes. On default, it's like timeline split, but we also have a separated mode. So you can see that we now have two charts. You can also rearrange the measurements if you want to have the packet loss on top, for instance. And if you work with the combined charts, we also guide the user via hover effect. So if you hover the measurements here, you can see that we highlight the respective graphs then on the right. All right, that's it for this use case. And now let's switch to another one, and that is that you do not really know which devices have like high jitter values, and you want to investigate that a little. For this use case, we have our group analyzer. And here we can choose like ping statistics. And also here we have a look at our ping jitter. Then you can set more filters if you'd like to. So maybe just include like Juniper devices if you'd like that. But you can also say that you want to have a value filter because you just want to have included where devices that have 20 milliseconds or higher of jitter here. You can also define how many devices should be well added to your chart. Let's take just 10 for this example. Then we can click apply and update, and you can see all the devices that perform worst in terms of jitter and our system at this in the past 24 hours. If you want to have a look at one of those measurements in detail, you can just click on one bar. And you can see that our analyzer opens as a dialog. If you want to investigate this further and just work with the analyzer and the settings here, we have this jump to analyzer button, which will open the analyzer as a view with all the configurations here taken over. All right, then we also allow other report types like tables, for instance. For that, we allow to add like custom columns. So if you want to see the vendor of the device as well, we can select this column here to our table, toggle the visibility, apply, and also apply. In our view, you see that now we also have the device vendor listed in our table. All right, let's go back to this chart. And having like an overview of the worst performing devices of your system is kind of useful also for reports. And we would like to have an automated report, maybe every Monday, that you could have a look at which device you should have a look at in terms of jitter. And for that, we have this copy button here now. So just click it. And after that, we will create a report job where we will use this component, these settings. Then to create a report job, we have to go to our dedicated reports job view. And we have to click create for the new report. We give it a name like jitter report. Next, settings are about scheduling. So we wanted to have this report to be performed each Monday, let's say at 9 o'clock. All right, then we have to set this report job to active, that it will run on the next date. Then we can select the report type we want to produce. So with this example, we want to have an HTML report and we don't want to send emails, so we disable this option. The next step is about configuring your layout and the contents of your report. So in our example, we wanted to have our group analyzer chart. So that's why we drag and drop our group analyzer component to our layout. We click modify, and you see that this layout resembles the one of our group analyzer view. But since we already have done the configuration, we can just click this Paste from Group Analyzer button here in the header. And after doing that, you see that all our parameters are already set. Like we have our ping jitter, report type, the top N, 10 devices, also our value filter is set. But we want another time range because it's a weekly report, so we want to have the data of the past 7 days. All right, with that, we're set. And after that, well, you saw that it's kind of handy to have a drill down on the ping charts of all of the selected devices. Since reports are static, we offer dynamic analyzer charts for that. You can see them here. We also paste them to our layout, and let's configure them. So we select that we want to have our ping jitter chart as the basis for further ping charts. So we want to have a ping chart for every measurement that is listed in our group analyzer statistic before. We want to have the ping chart, for instance, and we want to have separated charts and 2 charts per row, and also define the time range to 7 days. Then we want to have more layout. For that, I like the divider component that we have because it also allows like background colors. If you choose the text divider option here, let's set navy blue as the background and white for the text color, and just give it the name group analyzer so that you know what you will plot there. Then we want another one for our dynamic reset. So we clone this component and drag and drop it to the position where we want to have it. We modify it because the text should be dynamic analyzer then. And we're ready with this set. Then you can set tags if you want. But what you really have to do is to set the recipients for your report. You can choose to, if you want to have like one report for all of the users that you select, disrespecting like the privileges of devices they may see or may see not. So if you want to have the same report for all, you just use the rights of a selected user. In our example, we choose our InfoSim user. And then you have to define the report recipients. This is who should see the report in StableNet in our reports view. Let's say this should be the administrators in our case. We don't want to send any emails, so we choose this option here. And then we are done. We can create this job. And if you want to see the results, you have to go to our dedicated reports view. Since I just created a weekly report that will run on the next Monday, it's not in our list here yet, but I created one for this presentation. And as you can see, it's basically the same as you saw in the configuration before. So here we have our group analyzer chart, and below that our ping charts for the measurements. All right, so now you know how to basically work with our new analyzer views and also how to create a report with our new report reset in the portal. But before ending the session, I also want to give you a sneak peek at some new features we are working on. The first one is that we want to add advanced statistics and analyzer charts. So in future versions, there will be an option to also add advanced statistics like minimum, maximum, average, and so on to chart legends, but also to SLA markers. You can see the result here on the right. So in the legend, you can see that we have like the minimum, maximum printed here, and also the SLA marker with the 95th quantile is also pasted here. And then there will be an enhancement to our access settings. We'll make it dynamic and based on unit groups. So there will be one unit group or one access per unit group. In this example, we have one axis, let's say for traffic and one for time. And you can make like individual settings for them. So you can override or change the unit for traffic, for instance. If you don't like kilobits, you can just take megabits in this example, and you can also change the range of one axis. This means that we also do some enhancements to the SLA markers because they will be assigned to one y-axis. And so you want one SLA marker for traffic. You select this y-axis here, and then you can see that we also have the unit now here pasted to the range, which makes it easier to just set the correct ranges because you know how many zeros you have to enter here. All right, so that are the improvements that will become the future. And I hope you like all the new features and like working with our 7 portal. And thanks for your interest and joining this session.